Hello, Grizzlies, and welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. Sorry, I'm still uploading my intro here. I am so excited that this is happening today. So I thought if you missed it because you were watching my show, most of you were here, then let's watch it together, right? So I'm going to put this on the screen. Okay. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you, mods, as well. I know this was very short notice, but I just want to start playing it because right now it seems like they're taking a break as well. So maybe we can catch up a little bit. I am streaming from Law and Crime Network, so I hope that's okay. But I just really want to see these opening statements. I can't believe it's happening today, right? Oh my word. Okay, let me play my intro. Okay, so let me start playing this. Let me know if you can hear.
But this is an explanation of the procedure that we will follow in this trial so that you may better understand what's happening. The defendant is charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime.
Excuse me, guys. I just want to put on the non-branded one if I can, which is going to be from here.
Unless the state presents evidence which convinces you.
And let's boost it. Let's boost it, you guys. Grizzly boost time.
To the jury of his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The charge is simply the documents by which the case comes into court. Your purpose as jurors will be to decide the facts of this case. And out of all the people who were summoned to come here for jury duty, out of all the people who live here in Colleton County, out of all the people who live here in the state of South Carolina or any place else, only the 12 of you who will deliberate can decide the facts of this case. And you'll determine the facts of this case from the testimony which will come from this witness stand, together with any exhibits which is made a part of the record or any stipulations entered into by counsel. It is especially important that you perform your duty diligently and conscientiously and in conformity with the oath that you took, because ordinarily there is no way to correct an erroneous determination of facts by a jury. Now, just as only you can determine the facts of this case, as the presiding judge, I am the judge of the law. You must accept as correct the law as I stated to you, then deliberate and decide. I cannot tell you what the facts are. You cannot disagree with me as to what the law is. And even if you disagree, you must follow the law as I stated to you. You take the facts as you find them to be, the laws I give it to you, you deliberate and you decide the case. Until I tell you that it's time to do so, you cannot discuss the case with anyone, including your fellow jurors. You cannot discuss the case with family, friends, or anyone else. The attorneys in the case, you cannot discuss it with them or any parties or anyone else that might be connected with the case. Should you discover that a fellow juror is violating that oath and that order, you are to bring that to my attention. It's vital that you do not seek information outside of the courtroom during.
I'm just going to pause it there for a second. So here is Buster. Everyone is asking, is he going to be in court? That's him there, right? And then you can see the lawyers are all ready for this. And Denise, me too. I thought it would only maybe happen by the end of the week, but probably Monday. And that's what all the law tubers were saying too. So I hope you checked out my episode on the trial prep. So I'm not going to stream the whole trial, by the way. I'm just like very interested in these opening statements so we can get a feel for how is this going to go. And if there's any updates along the way, I'll share that with you. Okay, let's carry on. I'll shut up now. Sorry.
In the case, that means that you're not to search internet websites, watch television reports, news reports, any other form of social media accounts of the case, because you are sworn to decide this case based on the facts as you determine them to be, based on evidence presented in the case, as well as the law as I give it to you. Now, later in the process, I will appoint one of you to serve as the foreperson of the jury. And that person will have the responsibility of serving as the spokesperson for the jury. That person will have the responsibility of presiding over the jury deliberations. And that person will have the responsibility of completing the verdict form representing the unanimous verdict of the jury. In just a moment, the Attorney General will make an opening statement in which he will explain the issues as he sees it, or as the Attorney General sees it. Following that, the defense counsel will have that same opportunity. Then we'll begin with the presentation of testimony from witnesses. I look forward to working with you on this case and to keep the case moving as reasonable as we can keep it moving, but we will not rush, but take the time necessary to have this case fully presented to you. We'll now proceed to opening statements by the state.
Here we go.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. On the evening of June 7th, 2021, at the defendant's property off Moselle Road in Colleton County, his son, Paul Murdaugh, was standing in a small feed room and some kennels they had on the property. About 8:50 p.m., and the defendant over there, Alec Murdaugh, took a 12-shade shotgun and shot him in the shoulder, in the chest and the shoulder with buckshot. And the evidence is going to show it was a 1,000,000-to-1 shot. He could have survived that, but after that, another shot went up under his head and did catastrophic damage to his brain and his head. The evidence is going to show that Paul collapsed right outside that feed room. And just moments later, he picked up a .300 Blackout, which is a type of ammunition, but an AR-style rifle. And the evidence is going to show that the family had multiple weapons throughout the property. Picked up that .300 Blackout rifle and opened fire on his wife, Maggie, just feet away near some sheds that used to be a hangar. Pow, pow. 2 shots, abdomen in the leg, and took her down. And after that, there were additional shots, including 2 shots to the head that, again, did catastrophic damage and killed her instantly. The evidence is going to show that neither Paul nor Maggie had any defensive wounds. Neither one of them had any defensive wounds, as if they didn't see a threat coming from their attacker. And the evidence is also going to show that both Maggie and Paul were shot at extremely close range. The evidence is going to show it's called stippling. It's almost like a tattoo, that when you get shot very close to a weapon, it leaves marks that the forensic pathologist can see. They were shot at close range and they did not have defensive wounds. And the evidence is going to show that the defendant, Alec Murdaugh over there, told anyone who would listen that he was never at those kennels. But the evidence is also going to show from these things that every one of us, most of us carry around in our pocket, that he was there. And he was there just minutes before, with Maggie and Paul, just minutes before their cell phones go silent forever. Despite what he told people, I was never at the kennels, the cell phones are going to show otherwise. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Creighton Waters. I'm with the Attorney General's office, and I'll be the lead prosecutor. I introduced myself before. With me is David Fernandez, Savannah Gow, John Metters, Don Zelinka, John Conrad, and Johnny James. A lot of lawyers. This is a big case. It's a very complicated case, and that's why there's so many people working on it. Sitting back in the row, we have David Owen, who's the lead investigator. We have Lieutenant Charles Gent, who's one of the agents, Special Agent Ryan Kelly, and Special Agent Peter Rudolphy. Some of the agents that are working on the case, as well as Investigator Ozzie Toledo, who's working on the case as well. There's some of the witnesses that you'll hear from as we go through this case. The judge talked to you a little bit about him being the judge of the law. And he gives you the law. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the legal concepts before I turn back to those facts. Just remember, though, he's the judge of the law. So you take what he says, but I'm going to explain to you some of the legal issues from my perspective before we talk a little bit more about the evidence in the case. And the first thing is right before you went to lunch, y'all all took an oath. Everybody in this courtroom who's got involvement in this case takes an oath. You know, attorneys take an oath to become an attorney. Take another oath to become a prosecutor. Judge takes another oath to become a judge. Witnesses take oath on the stands. Law enforcement take oaths to become law enforcement. But y'all took an oath as well. And the reason why is that y'all have the most important job in this courtroom. Every one of you raised your hand and said that you would well and truly try this case. And it's the most important job here because, like the judge said, he's the judge of the law, but y'all are the judge of the facts. Y'all are going to listen to what comes from that witness stand and judge those facts. But you also have to be mindful of that oath. That oath requires you to do that hard job, to make that decision, to call the strike when you see it. It's the same oath. It's just as important as any other oath. This might be the most important in this courtroom. The judge mentioned reasonable doubt, and he's exactly right. It's the state's burden to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. That is a cornerstone of our country. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's a burden we welcome. It's what we want. It's a system that has been well tested and true, and we take that burden to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. But I want to remind everyone that the emphasis is on reasonable. Okay, it's not any doubt. It is reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt is often defined, and again, you listen to the judge how he defines it, but reasonable doubt is a doubt that would cause a reasonable person to hesitate to act. And when you hear the evidence coming from this stand about this particular case, I submit to you, you won't hesitate to act. Again, remember the emphasis is on reasonable and reasonable doubt. The judge mentioned the charges, and there are 4 of them. First indictment accuses Alec Murdaugh, to which he's pled not guilty, but it accuses him of murdering Maggie Murdaugh. The second indictment accuses him of murdering Paul Murdaugh. The third indictment accuses him of possessing a firearm during the commission of a violent crime, that being the murder of Maggie Murdaugh. And the last one accuses him of possessing a firearm during the commission of a violent crime, and that being the murder of Paul Murdaugh. And what does that mean? What is murder? Well, the judge again is going to instruct you that it is the unlawful killing of another with malice aforethought. And what is malice? Malice is a mental state. That's ultimately going to be for y'all to determine as to what was going through Alec Murdaugh's mind when he committed these crimes. What is malice? Malice has often been defined as the intentional doing of a wrongful act without just cause or excuse. It is the intent to inflict an injury under circumstances that the law would presume an evil intent. An evil intent. And when you look at the circumstances of the crime, when you look at what led up to this crime, the evidence is going to show that there was malice aforethought. Aforethought, what does that mean? It means it has to exist at the moment you commit that crime. It doesn't have to be planned. It doesn't have to be planned for any long period of time. It just has to exist a split second before the crime is committed. But when you see this crime and you hear all the circumstances, the evidence is going to show that aforethought existed for a while. It existed for a while in the mind of Alec Murdaugh. You're also going to hear about circumstantial evidence. And a lot of times people hear, oh, it's just a circumstantial case. But the law says otherwise. The law says that circumstantial evidence is just as good as direct evidence. And what's the difference between the two? Direct evidence, especially about the storm out here, from what I'm told, direct evidence is if it's sunny outside and a witness goes outside and it's sunny and they come here and they get on my witness stand and because they saw it raining, they sit on the stand and said, I was just outside and I saw it rain. I saw it raining. That's direct evidence. They actually saw it raining. But to give you an example of what circumstantial evidence is if the witness goes into a room where all the curtains are drawn, and when they go into that room, it's sunny outside and everything's dry. And while they're in that room, they see it darken behind the shades. They hear thunder. They hear the wind blowing. They hear the sound of raindrops on the roof. And then they open up the door, and it's not raining, but everything is wet. There's puddles in the driveway. There's puddles in the street. There's puddles in the yard. There's limbs down all over the ground. And then they come in here and say, yeah, it was raining. Didn't actually see it raining, but those circumstances are beyond any reasonable doubt that it was actually raining. Now, I guess it's possible that somebody could have been standing outside the window and beating the drum to sound like thunder and blowing a fan to make it seem like it was the wind and somehow got enough water to coat the entire neighborhood. But that's not a reasonable doubt. Everybody understand that distinction? That's not a reasonable doubt. Another thing, and this is crucial, what you're going to do in this particular case, is determine credibility or the believability of witnesses. So you do your job to look at the evidence, the exhibits in the case, but also the witnesses and decide if it's truthful, if you believe it, if you can rely on it. And the judge is going to instruct you that you can believe one witness against many or many witnesses against one. You can believe all the witnesses' testimony or part of the witness' testimony. It's up to you, first individually and then as a product of your deliberations. And what you're required to do there is just to rely on that good old-fashioned common sense. Does it all fit together? Is it corroborated? Does it fit with what you would expect? Does it fit with what you expect how real people would act? Does it seem real? Does something seem a little off? Does something seem a little off? You're going to see video statements of Alec Murdaugh. You're going to see body-worn camera of him at the scene when law enforcement arrives. And hear what he says. And hear what he says about that night. You're going to hear 3 recorded statements on video that he gave with law enforcement. And you're going to hear how things progress about what he says and what he says he did that night. Watch those closely. Watch his expressions. Listen to what he's saying. Listen to what he's not saying. Use that common sense. Does this seem right? Or does something seem a little off? Something seems a little off. I mentioned that Maggie was killed with a .300 blackout rifle, an AR-style rifle that chambered in .300 blackout ammunition. And you're going to hear evidence that back in Christmas of 2016, Alec Murdaugh over there bought 2 300 blackout AR-style rifles. And then not long after that, one of them went missing from Paul's truck. And time went by, and in April of 2018, Alec Murdaugh replaced that rifle and bought another one. 3 total blackout rifles that they had. One of them went missing years ago, and a replacement was bought. You're going to hear evidence that Paul and his friend were using that replacement gun. They were standing right outside the side door to the gun room of the house, and they were sighting it in, firing down into a field. And the cases were ejecting. The cases are the empty shell from a bullet, and they were ejecting out into the flower bed right there. And then there's a range across the street, and they shot it there, and there's cases ejected there as well. And they were shooting that third replacement gun just weeks prior to the murders, prior to June 7th, 2021, when Maggie and Paul were murdered. And you're going to hear forensic evidence that the cases that were found in that flower bed and the cases that were found across the street at that range were ejected out of the same weapon that fired all the cases that were around Maggie's dead body, that killed her. It was a family weapon that killed Maggie Murdaugh. And you're going to hear evidence that of those 3 blackouts that Alec Murdaugh purchased, when law enforcement arrives at the scene on June 7th, 2021, he can only account for one of them. He can only account for one of them. And that replacement gun is nowhere to be found. You're also going to hear evidence that the type of ammunition, the exact brand, the exact model of ammunition that was used to kill Maggie, S&B 300 blackout ammunition and 147 grain bullets, that exact ammunition, boxes, empty boxes of that ammunition, is found all over the property. The very same brand and model of ammunition that was used to kill her is found at multiple locations throughout the property. And you're also going to hear evidence, the same thing about the shotgun shells that killed Paul. That federal double-aught buckshot unfired rounds were found on the property, as well as Winchester .2 turkey loads, the 2 rounds in the shotgun that killed Paul. Family weapon, same ammunition. It's on the property. You're also going to hear evidence that about a week after the murders, Mr. Alec Murdaugh's father had died, Mr. Randolph, and about a week after the murders, he shows up early in the morning at his parents' home, where his mother still is in late-stage Alzheimer's, on Alameda in Hampton. It's uncharacteristic for him to show up early, uncharacteristic for him to show up at all like that. And he comes in and he's carrying something in a blue tarp, and he takes it upstairs. And eventually law enforcement finds out about that. And they go upstairs and they find a wadded up, very, very large raincoat in a blue color. Could look like a tarp. And you're going to hear evidence that it was coated with gunshot residue on the inside. On the inside. You're going to hear other evidence of gunshot residue. You're going to hear that there was gunshot residue on Alec at the scene. You're going to hear the evidence that there was gunshot residue on the seatbelt of the car he was driving. You're going to hear evidence that when law enforcement got to the scene, he had gone and gotten a shotgun, Paul's shotgun, and that Maggie's DNA was on that shotgun. You're going to hear other evidence from DNA, gunshot residue, firearms examiners. There's going to be a lot of forensic evidence in this case. And I'm not going to get into every single bit of it right now, but I will say that a key piece of forensic evidence that you're going to hear in this case is the cell phone network. Alec's cell phone, Maggie's cell phone, Paul's cell phone. You know, This is all amazing technology that most of us carry around in our pockets. It really allows us to do a lot of things and to get a lot done. But this cell phone keeps track of who we're talking to, who we're calling, who we're texting, whenever we access apps. And every time you do that, there's a record kept in this phone unless it's deleted somehow. And if you're using certain apps, you can even get GPS information where you were when you did that that's stored on these phones. You're going to hear evidence about that. You're going to hear evidence that when you make a call and it pings off a cell tower, the location information can be gathered from that as well. And so it allows an investigation to take this and piece together what someone was doing on a particular day, and not only what they were doing, but who they were interacting with and how they were interacting with them. And this is going to be crucial evidence for you to consider. You're going to hear that particularly Alec and Paul, but also Maggie, were prolific cell phone users, to the point where Paul's friends even had a nickname for him about his cell phone usage. Before I talk more about that, there's 3 family properties I need to talk about, okay? The first one I've mentioned is Moselle. Moselle in Colleton County. It's called Moselle, it's off Moselle Road, but everybody refers to it as Moselle. And that property is it's a lot of acres. There's a main house on it, and there's a driveway that goes to that main house, but it used to be an airstrip, and there's an airstrip that goes down, and then down the way, just less than a third of a mile away, just a 3-minute walk, 4-minute walk, 45-second drive, is the kennels and the shed that used to be a hangar where Paul and Maggie were murdered. So the main house is just less than a third of a mile away. You can see the kennels from the main house. You can see the main house from the kennels. The family also had a house in Edisto at the beach. And the evidence is going to show that that is where Maggie preferred to stay, particularly in the summer months. She liked the beach. She was not a hunter. She didn't want to be at Moselle. She didn't want to be at the lodge where it was hot and buggy. She liked being in Edisto. And then you're also, I've already mentioned, the house in Alameda, which is where his parents' home. On June 7th, 2021, you're going to hear evidence that his father went into the hospital and the prognosis was not good. And in fact, he died a few days later. And his mother was in late stage Alzheimer's and that house being cared for by a caretaker. You're going to hear from that caretaker.
Mr. Waters, yes, sir. Let me pause for a moment. We'll be at ease for just a moment.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's so awesome to watch it with you, the Grizzly fam. We'd be chatting either way in another chat. So this is great to have you all here. I'm just quickly going to put this mode on here. I'm also pasting some facts in for those of you who aren't familiar with the case. If you aren't, I have done a trial prep episode that you can catch if you just look at my Alec Murdaugh playlist, the Murdaugh playlist. So check that out. Yeah, you say that happens so fast. I know, right? I can't believe it. Like, I mean, today, Wednesday. I mean, they were saying maybe midweek, maybe by the end of the week, possibly even Monday. And, I was watching some law tubers today, and they were like, yeah, probably not today. Probably not today. I'm like, yeah, probably not today. And then right after we streamed with John Kelly, it was opening statements. I couldn't believe it. I don't want to miss this because I definitely want to see how the defense attorneys talk for sure. Because we read a lot about them 2 streams ago or so. So go check out those episodes if you missed it. If you want some background info on the case, I mean, we did a deep dive. Again, everything you need to know. And then who these lawyers are. He's got some very hefty lawyers. Is hefty the right word? Like head honchos, like big time lawyers. So the defense team, I can't wait to see what they say, and I'm glad you're here. Yeah, they surprised us all. Yeah, I think they surprised everyone, right? Okay, so the sound is off here right now, so let's just go a little bit forward. There we go. Okay.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Ron.
And it's really nice watching with all the Grizzlies, so thank you all for being here.
All right. We were talking about the three family properties. Moselle has the main house and the kennels / sheds. The main house has a driveway, but the kennels also have a driveway. And the evidence is going to show that that was actually as commonly used as the main driveway. In fact, the mailbox is by the kennel driveway. Driving right past those kennels were Paul and Maggie were murdered. I told you that you're going to hear evidence that Maggie did not like being in Moselle as much as she liked Eddystone, the beach house. With that, on June 7th, 2021, she came back to Moselle. And the evidence is going to show that she arrived about 8:15. And the evidence is going to show that from the cell phones that Paul was there at the house, at the main house. And Alec Murdaugh himself says that they ate dinner. And the autopsy is going to reflect both Paul and Maggie having similar stomach contents, indicating that they recently shared a meal together. About 8:30, about 15 minutes after they arrived, Paul's phone starts moving towards the kennels. You're going to hear evidence again that the defendant said he was never at those kennels, that he was napping after they ate, and he was at the main house and never went there. You're also going to hear evidence about how much Alec used his own cell phone, and it would be unusual for him to be anywhere without his cell phone. At 8:44 and 55 seconds, Paul recorded a video. He was down at the kennels because he had been talking to a friend of his. And you're going to hear from this friend because his friend's dog was in the kennels and they thought there was something wrong with the tail. And Paul was recording a video of it to send to his friend. 8:44 and 55 seconds. And on that video, and you'll see that video, and you'll hear from witnesses that identify Paul's voice, Maggie's voice, and Alec's voice. Told anyone who would listen he was never there. At 8:44 and 55 seconds, there's a video. The evidence will show that he was there. He was at the murder scene with the two victims. And more than that, just over 3 minutes later, 8:49 and 1 second, Paul's phone locks forever. He never reads another text. He never sends another text. He doesn't answer calls. 3 minutes after that video has the defendant at the murder scene with the two victims, Paul's phone goes silent forever. And in fact, another communication comes into the very friend that he was talking to the dog at 8:49 and 35 seconds, just 35 seconds later, and he doesn't answer. He never answers another thing forever now. And on top of that, Maggie's phone locks at 8:49 and 31 seconds, around that same time, and she never answers another text, never sends another text, never makes another phone call, never receives another phone call. 3 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. 3 minutes after a video shows he's at the scene with the victims, and he told everybody he was never there. Never there. Credibility, ladies and gentlemen. Credibility. So what happens after that? Well, you'll hear evidence that Alec's phone was conspicuously, didn't have a lot of activity from about 8:09 p.m. until 9:02 p.m. And if he was at the kennels, which the evidence will show, why is his phone not with him? Why is it not showing activity? But you will hear that at 9:02, all of a sudden his phone does start to pick up activity. At 9:02, he calls, he starts moving. At 9:04, he calls Maggie's phone. Doesn't answer, of course. Doesn't answer. He calls his father, Randolph, who's in the hospital. Doesn't appear there's an answer there. He calls Maggie again at 9:06. Remember, he's just a third of a mile away. You can see it. At 9:06, she doesn't answer. At 9:06, he turns on his car, his Suburban, and he texts Maggie that he's going, be right back. I'm going to go check on Mom. And he doesn't drive down to the kennels, even though that's where the mailbox is. That's a common place to be, even though you can see it. He's called his wife 2 times and texted her, and she hasn't responded. But he didn't just drive down there and say, hey, I'm heading. You guys want to go? What's up? What's up? Right there. You can see it. He then drives to Alameda, where his mom is suffering from Alzheimer's, and the caretaker is there. And he starts calling people. He's talking to people. It'll be up to you to decide whether or not he's trying to manufacture an alibi. He gets there to Alameda. You'll hear evidence about whether or not that was usual. You'll hear evidence about how he was acting when he got there. And he's only there for 20 minutes because he's back underway at 9:44. And he makes more phone calls on the way back. Calling friends, calling people who will answer. It'll be up to you to decide whether he's trying to create an alibi. And he gets back to Moselle at 10:01. And he calls 911 at 10:06. Listen to that 911 call. Listen to what he says. Listen to what explanations he may offer. You're going to hear that 911 call, but you're also going to see the body-worn camera of the officers who arrived at the scene. The video camera they wear so that it records what they're doing. And you're going to see what he did to Maggie and Paul. It's going to be gruesome. There's no other way around it. It's what he did. You're going to see crime scene photographs. You're going to see the traumatic injuries that were suffered. You're going to hear from a pathologist, a doctor who will examine the injuries. It's going to be gruesome. There's no other way around it. On that 911 call and on the body-worn cameras, pay attention to what he says. Look at how he's acting. But he says within a few minutes of each one of those, he says, this is about the boat case. This is about the boat case. And you're going to hear some of what was going on in Alex Murdaugh's life leading up to that day. Stuff that happened that very day, stuff that was leading up, a perfect storm that was gathering, much like the storms that are coming outside today. Listen for that evidence. Listen to that gathering storm that all came to a head on June 7th, 2021, the day the evidence will show he killed Maggie and Paul. This has been a long, exhaustive investigation. And it's going to be a fairly long trial because it's complicated. It's a journey. There's a lot of aspects of this case. There's a lot of factors to this case. But like a lot of things that are complicated, when you start to put them all together, piece them together like a puzzle, all of a sudden the picture emerges and it's really simple. It's really simple. Once we get to the end of that journey, and you have a chance to deliberate, the evidence is going to be such that you're going to reach the inescapable conclusion that Alec murdered Maggie and Paul, that he was the storm, that the storm was coming for them, and the storm arrived on June 7th, 2021, just like the storms that are heading here right now, that they died as a result, beyond any reasonable doubt. Thank you.
For the defense.
Please report, Your Honor.
Ooh, this is what I've been waiting for. This defense team, from everything we read, is very strong. So I want to see this. Brittany says, is his other son in the courtroom? Yeah, he's like literally right here. Here's his other son, Buster. This is Alec Murdaugh right here, you guys. So yes, thank you for being here. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my name is Dick Harpootlian. I think I introduced myself to y'all and the attorneys, the three other attorneys, Jim Griffin, Philip Barber, Margaret Fox. It is our honor to represent Alec Murdaugh, or Murdaugh, depending on how you pronounce it. I say it's our honor because I submit to you what you have heard from the Attorney General as facts are not.
Sorry, but this guy is so good, right? It's like, let's be really relatable, connect with everyone, Murdaugh or Murdaugh, like you'll say. And then he's like, ooh, facts. I mean, sorry, but this is what I was waiting for. Oh, my word. Okay, I'm going to keep quiet now and watch.
Are not. They're his theories, his conjecture. Now stand up. This is Alec Murdaugh. And Alec was the loving father of Paul and the loving husband of Maggie. You're not going to hear a single witness say that their relationship, Maggie and Alex's relationship, were anything other than loving. You're going to hear about how they went to a baseball game the weekend before. You're going to hear about their relationship. You're going to see texts and emails indicating a loving relationship. Paul, the apple of his eye. You're going to see a video somewhere between 7:30 and 8 o'clock the night of the murders, with Paul and Alec riding around looking at some trees they planted. It's a Snapchat that Paul sent to other people because the trees were not planted very well. They were cantilevering over. They're laughing. They're having a good time. That would be about an hour before the Attorney General says he swatted them. When I say he swatted them, when they were swatted, and no question, Paul Murdaugh was shot twice with buckshot, 12-gauge buckshot, once in the chest. And by the way, that shot would indicate it was in the chest and came out under his arm, like somebody that might have been holding up their hands. So when he says no defensive wounds, he perhaps was being held at shotgun. I mean, I can make the same sort of speculation that the Attorney General can, because that's all he's doing is speculating. What we do know is 12-gauge, fairly close range shot to the chest. He must have been turned because it comes out under his arm. There's wadding, if you're familiar with a shotgun, under his arm. The second shot ended up, and there's going to be some question about the direction of that shot, but ended up entering his skull cavity, and the gases from that shot literally exploded his head like a watermelon hit with a sledgehammer. All that was left was the front of his face. Everything else was gone. His brain exploded out of his head, hit the ceiling in the shed, and dropped to his feet. horrendous, horrible, butchering. So to find Alec Murdaugh guilty of murdering his son, you're going to have to accept that within an hour of having a extraordinarily bonding, you can see it in the Snapchat, that he executes him in a brutal fashion. Not believable. Not believable. Now, Maggie is shot running. There's no defensive wounds because she's shot running, and after she falls to the ground and has one bullet that has hit her and probably traveled up and hit her brain, she's on the ground, and whoever the perpetrator was walked up, took that AR, and put one in the back of her head. Executed. Executed. Why? This is going to be interesting because we don't know why. He doesn't know why. He's got theories of this and theories of that, but why? Number one. Number two, what was it in that hour between when he's yucking it up with Paul? And let me say this to you. His record, he was interviewed, he comes home and finds, there's no question about this, they've got telemetry from his car. He left the house at 9:06, returns at 10:01 after seeing his mother who has dementia. Now remember, that day, his father, who is dying, is taken to the hospital. Mom's home alone with the housekeeper. Perfectly reasonable for him to want to go see her. And later than usual, because his father's not there. He's in the hospital. He dies 2 days later. His father dies 2 days later. So the question is, if he leaves at 9:06 and he's back at 10:01, he literally, and he can account, the cars and the cell phone records account for where he was between 9:06 and 10:01. Now the cell phone records, and you're going to hear this from their own experts, are incomplete. They're incomplete. And we're to submit, one of the reasons they're incomplete, and by the way, how do they find Maggie's phone? Maggie's phone was thrown out on the side of the road about a quarter of a mile away from, a little bit more, maybe a half a mile, from the Moselle property, thrown out on the side of the road. They found it by using Find My iPhone. And the way they did that, they had to open it or have access. Who gave them the code to open the phone? Now, Murdaugh. And it's not destroyed, it's just thrown on the side of the phone. What you're also going to see is that Alec Murdaugh was calling that phone at 9:06. As he leaves the house, he did call her twice and texted her. And we also know that at 9:06, as he cranks his car, as the cell phone records show that, as the telemetry data shows the cell phone linking up with the car, that phone is being thrown on the side of the road almost a half a mile away. Now that is Houdini. That is magic. That is inexplicable. Now, I was making notes while the Attorney General was talking. But let me tell you what is more believable. The night he comes home and finds his wife and son butchered. And when I say butchered, you're going to see these photographs. When I see them now, after having seen them for the last 4 or 5 months, it still shocks me. It still is tough to look at. It still bothers me. And he comes home and finds his son laying in his own blood with his brain laying at his feet, shot to hell. He walks over, he checks to see if there's any life there, although, he's seeing his brain laying outside his body. He knows there's nothing there. He goes over and tries to get a pulse out of Maggie. No pulse there. Calls 911. I want you to hear that 911 tape. It is a man hysterical, in grief, trying to figure out what's going on. And he tells the 911 operator that he's concerned, and he drives the back up to the house. And by the way, you can't see, I've been out there, you can't see the shed where you might see the top of the shed. There are pine trees between the front porch or the porch on the house and the dog pens. And it's not a third of a mile, maybe by the way the crow flies, but it takes a little bit longer to drive down there. And this is not unusual for them to communicate by cell phone or text, even when they're all on the same property. It's 1,100 acres, big property. They hunted it. So what I'm trying to say to you is that the Attorney General has given you his view. And again, you can't see the shed. And I'm going to ask the judge at some point during this trial to ask you, the jury, to be able to go to the scene so you can see it. You can understand the proportions. You can understand the details. Because the facts are what matter here. The facts. Let me give you another fact. You're going to hear their witnesses explain the catastrophic injuries to Paul. That his head literally exploded. And whoever shot him with that shotgun was probably no more than 3 feet away. Maybe closer, maybe a little further away. His head exploded. You would be covered in blood from head to foot. Head to foot. In blood. They seized his clothes that night. SLED did. And they well, first of all, you're going to see in the videos from the officers that arrived that night, there's no blood on him. They didn't find any blood on him. SLED's testing indicated 12 different places on his shirt and pants, no human blood detected. Period. Okay? You'll see pictures, white t-shirt, no blood on it. Those are facts. Those aren't theories. Those are facts. Another fact that is, I think, the reason we're here today. When you hear those questions on the videotape on the night, now he's found his wife and son brutally butchered. You can hear on the 911 tape, he is hysterical. He comes in and out. It's consistent. If any of you have ever, you got to use your experience as part of this deliberation process. Your human experience. Who's ever suffered a catastrophic loss of a friend or a family member? It's numbing. It's the minute you find out, or if you see them dead, it's numbing. You go into shock. So anything he said that night is in the context of just an hour or two before finding his wife and son butchered. He drove back up to the house while he was on 911 saying, I got to get a gun. Whoever did this might be out there. And he gets a gun. What's fascinating about that is he gets a 12-gauge shotgun and he grabs some shells. These people hunt a lot. They have guns everywhere. He grabs some shells. He puts a 16-gauge, a 12-gauge, grabbed a 12-gauge shotgun, put a 12-gauge buckshot in, and then he put a 16-gauge buckshot in. That's how shook up he was. Guy hunted all his life, and he put a shell in that he couldn't fire a 16 gauge from a 12 gauge. Makes no sense. He was traumatized. GSR, their own expert at SLED said the amount of particles of GSR are consistent with him going up and picking that shotgun up. You want to talk about GSR? Again, if you fired a shotgun twice and a rifle 6 times, you'd be covered in GSR. Those are the facts. That's not his theory. The facts. Now let's talk a little bit about these ARs. Again, you're going to hear testimony. A lot of guns. They had a gun room. I don't live in Colleton County. I live in downtown Columbia. Ain't no gun rooms in downtown Columbia. But apparently if you live on 1,100 acres and you hunt deer and you hunt whatever they were planting those sunflowers for, quail, I guess. You have a lot of guns. The truth is, in 2017, and you'll hear the testimony, that Allen bought 2 blackouts, one for Paul and one for Buster, the his other son, was sitting out in the audience. And Paul had his stolen. He bought another one for Paul. Now, Paul was very irresponsible with guns, cars. He'd leave guns around. He'd leave guns in cars. He oftentimes left guns down at the dog pens, in the feed room. Now, I can't tell you whether he was shot with his own weapon or not, or his mom was shot with his weapon or not. But I can tell you that they weren't shot by Alex. They don't have the guns. There's no way to tell conclusively without having the weapons what weapons those were fired by. And we'll be talking a little bit with the SWAT experts about that. The sort of overarching issue here is why murder on June 7th, 2021, why is it September of 2022 before they charge him? And I will tell you what happened that night. And this is a problem. He's questioned, and the questioning is pretty aggressive. You'll hear it. He's traumatized. They suspect him. They show up, he's got a shotgun. They suspect him. And the next morning, 2 people found butchered here in Colleton County, Moselle Road. The police announced, don't worry. There's no danger to y'all. There's nobody out there that could pose a danger to you. Because you see, they decided that night he did it. Without forensics, without cell phones, without any of that. And they've been pounding that square peg in the round hole for the last, since June of 2021, resulting in charges in September of 22. And so, if he felt, and he did, and you'll hear it, the accusatory fashion he's being interviewed in, he may not have dealt all the facts. But by the way, whether he'd been down to the dog pens that night or not, really doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. Because you're going to see cell phone activity that would be, let me put it to you this way. Paul's phone, 850. Maggie's phone, later than that, 854. Clearly, it's still being used. At 9:06, he's up at the house, getting in the car, cranking it up to drive over and see his mom. He says, a few hundred yards away, it's a little bit further than that. But the point of the matter is, he would have had to have executed both of them, got back up to the house, got the bloody clothes off. And by the way, they seized his clothes from that night. They've never searched his house for any other clothes that we know of. Although that night, he gave permission and they got a search warrant. Go to my house. Go look through everything. Where are the bloody clothes? Where are the bloody clothes? And of course, I would tell you that they've woven this story together because they want everything to be consistent. What's important about that is the judge, and by the way, there's no eyewitness. There's no forensics tying him to the murder. When I say forensics, fingerprints, blood, whatever, tying him to shooting anybody that night. The cell phone records would indicate he would have had less than 10 minutes to kill him, get up to the house, get in the car and crank it up. He'd be covered in blood. Now, if they think he was beginning to establish an alibi, there's no evidence of that. The evidence is consistent with him seeing them earlier at the dog pen. And by the way, that audio they have of him and Maggie, they were talking about one of the dogs killing a chicken. And they were debating whether it was a guinea hen or a chicken. No animosity. Very normal discussion. Paul's very happy. We know that Paul, after that, is texting back and forth with the girl about going to the movies. Nobody's down there threatening him. Daddy's not pulling out a shotgun and killing him. For, 10 minutes after that, he's texting this girl. So, Big question. One shooter or two? Two guns, shotgun and an AR. And by the way, Maggie has no defensive wounds because she's running. What's she running from? And could you shoot? Typically she had a little shed right, probably 150 feet from the feed room on the other side of a wall. Perhaps she heard the shotgun blast and came around and saw somebody or two people, and whoever it was opened up. Was there enough time to kill Paul and then find the AR and then ambush Maggie? Much more likely there were two people, but again, we don't have to prove anything. Let me sort of share the framework in which you should examine this. You have agreed to follow the law, and here's the law. Here is the law. He didn't do it. He is presumed innocent. As you sit there right now, when you look at him, you have to believe he is innocent. He didn't do it. Now, let me tell you, that's so difficult to do. I get it. And the way maybe the best way to explain it is this. This morning or yesterday, nobody really reads newspapers anymore, but if you're reading the newspaper, looking at the internet, and you read the police had arrested somebody for some heinous crime, the natural inclination of everybody, all of y'all, is to say, thank God they caught him or her. Thank God that person is in custody. And you did something that's so natural. We all do it. You presumed the police had arrested the person that committed the crime. You presumed him or her guilty. That is the natural thing to do. And you know what? That's fine for you to do. Any other day except today. Because you took an oath to follow the law. And the law is, he is innocent. He's presumed innocent. That is your presumption. Your mental framework is, he didn't do it. They've got to prove it to me beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, what's even more difficult, and this isn't a contest, this isn't a game, this isn't who wins and who loses. This is about justice. You know, Oliver Wendell Holmes, one of the justices of the Supreme Court, once said, jury duty is the highest duty a citizen can perform for their country in peacetime. Because you are protecting us from them, from the state, from the government. That's the foundation of our Constitution, is that the individual has the right to be presumed innocent, has the right to a jury trial, has a right to have his or her peers sit in judgment of it. That's you. And the framework is you presume him innocent, and you cannot convict him until the state proves to you beyond a reasonable doubt of his guilt. And a reasonable doubt is the kind of doubt which would cause an ordinary person to hesitate to act in the more important decisions in their life. Now, what makes this even more complicated is there's no direct evidence. There's no eyewitness. There's no camera. There's no fingerprints. There's no forensics tying him to the crime. None. None. I say that without any fear of contradiction whatsoever. None. And what the judge is going to tell you is, to the extent the state relies on circumstantial evidence, the circumstances must be consistent with each other, and when taken together, point conclusively to the guilt of the accused beyond a reasonable doubt. If these circumstances merely portray the defendant's behavior as suspicious, the proof has failed. Now, this smoke they've created is about suspicion. I mean, if you show up at the scene and you got the wife, the wife especially dead, and the guy's got a shotgun, you know, it's pretty logical for the cops to jump to the conclusion he did it. And the problem is that as they came to that conclusion, they have pounded that square peg in the round hole, and you're going to hear about it. They've ignored some witnesses. For instance, that blue tarp showed up with a blue tarp. That witness who said he showed up with a blue tarp was shown a blue rain jacket that he talked about. Said, that's not it. That's not what he brought here that morning. I've talked to her. She says, no. It was a blue tarp. And what was it?
I object to him testifying, Your Honor. Objection is sustained.
I would indicate.
Objection is sustained. You may proceed.
I would tell you that the testimony you're going to hear is inconsistent with the Attorney General's represented to you, based on interviews done by people other than me. So, what I'm telling you is this, that as you sit here and listen, every time there's a witness that takes that witness stand that the state's put up there, you see, you judge the credibility, whether to believe a witness or not believe a witness, whether to believe one witness against many, many against one. You're going to have to evaluate the testimony you hear from this witness stand with a critical eye. Critical eye. If you've got uncontested scientific evidence, you accept it. I've got no problem with that. These cell phone records he keeps talking about, I would say to you, are not necessarily accurate to the extent they're reliable. I will also tell you that there's going to be a bunch of people, and I will that have been promised something or threatened with something that may take the witness stand and say something. But I tell you what they're not going to say. They're not going to say they saw him kill him. They're not going to say that they were involved in it. They're not going to say anything that would give you a comfort level in their testimony. Now, all of you have indicated that you will follow the law. And I say this one last time. He didn't do it. He didn't butcher his son and wife. And you need to put from your mind any suggestion that he did. You've been picked because you said you could be fair. You were picked because you said you could follow the law. You were picked because Alec Murdaugh believes that you can be fair. Now, if during this process over the next however long we're here, I say something or do something, which most certainly based on my career, I will do, that irritates you or angers you. Sometimes I'm a little rough. Don't hold that against Alec. Hold it against me. If I say something that offends you in some way, don't hold that against Alec. Hold it against me. Remember, as you sit there right now, in your mind, he didn't do it. He is innocent. He would require a verdict of not guilty from you. That's the law. That's your oath. Thank you.
Damn.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to send you to the jury room for a break while I discuss scheduling with everyone. Please do not discuss the case. As I mentioned to you earlier, you're not allowed.
Who wants a little bit of document time? Sorry, mods. The mods are like, oh my word, this lady's just. I think I just want to check. Yeah, what are they still doing? Yeah, the stream ended. Okay. Oh, my bad. What did I press? Okay, so let's get the document out. I put it on Patreon today. So if you saw that, it's got a lot of facts in it. So let's go and look at it. Let's look at it. Where is it? I've got so many things on this freaking computer. We've looked at the Kinsey report before. So now we're going to open this binder here. If you see me like looking everywhere, I've got 3 screens, right? Like always looking, or like what. Okay. So thank you to the docket for this. So now we could go over some of this. I know the timeline, what they were looking at there in those opening statements. And yes, Keithley, you're right. It's opening statements, closing arguments. And I said, whose argument was better? My bad. I mean statement. But I must say, the defense, they didn't impress me as much as I thought they would. I was so ready. Vanny's like, she's unstoppable. Document time. Okay, everyone. So let's get into it. So what they were talking about in the opening statements was the cell phone timeline. It's so funny how that Harpootlian was like, nah, that's not that accurate though, the cell phones, because that's probably going to be the most accurate stuff is the cell phone data. 8:50, 8:54. So Maggie and Paul's phones active, and after that not. And at 9:06, then he was going to his mom's house and all of that, right? Okay, firstly, thank you for being here. I'm sorry that I started late. I was, of course, streaming with, Gloria says, objection. Objection. I was streaming with John Kelly, criminal profiler, about the Idaho case. So I hope you'll go check that out as well. Rob says the docket is such a great resource for you. Yes, we love documents. I mean, who knew that a nerd like me was going to hit the YouTube streets and be like, okay, let's make documents cool again, right? Because we freaking love documents. So let's look at this. They say, I'm just starting from the top. Okay, I've read through this and I put it on Patreon, but let's go. So they say, State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, State of South Carolina versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, right? Defendant Richard Alexander Murdaugh, by and through undersigned counsel, hereby moves to preclude the state from offering evidence on how the Court of Common Pleas would or should have ruled upon a pending motion in a civil proceeding to which Mr. Murdaugh is a party. The state has argued in motion to practice that Mr. Murdaugh murdered his wife Maggie and son Paul to gain a continuance of a motion to compel discovery in a civil case. So what I gather from all this is, I may be wrong, because I'm not a lawyer at all, okay? But read the Kinsey report. That was like other evidence and experts' opinion, right? And now this part of this is like the Bevel's report. So we're going to look at what they've got here because they actually list a whole bunch in here, right? So I'm just going to read this first bit and then we're going to skim a bit to find all the good stuff in here. So they say, I found it interesting how they wrote that. Okay, Mr. Murdaugh murdered his wife, Maggie, and son Paul to gain a continuance of a motion to compel discovery in a civil case. According to the state, the motion would have been granted and would have revealed his alleged financial crimes. All right, the state's argument merely illustrates the prosecution's lack of experience in civil discovery. Personal injury plaintiffs' lawyers routinely make intrusive requests for the defendant's financial information. Courts routinely follow the law and refuse to compel production of financial information until and unless blah, blah, blah. Carry on. We're carrying on. Few people knew this as well as Alex Murdaugh, and this is exactly what happened with the motion to compel financial information from Parker's Corporation and the same civil case, and it was denied. So, yes, PJ Party. This is now background. On February 23rd, 2019, Mr. Murdaugh's son Paul allegedly consumed alcoholic beverages. So this is nice because it goes over quite a lot of the timeline, right? Okay, we're going back to 2019. Remember, Paul and Maggie were shot on June 7th, 2021. Oh no, and Katie, don't worry. I didn't take it like that. Okay. Yes. Okay, so on February 23rd, 2019, Mr. Murdaugh's son, Paul, allegedly consumed alcoholic beverages purchased using his older brother Buster's driver's license while out with a group of friends. At that time, Paul was about 6 weeks shy of his 20th birthday. Later that night, the group of friends were operating a boat when it crashed into a bridge piling. Mallory Beach was thrown from the boat and killed. If none of this is familiar to you, please check out my Alec Murdaugh trial prep episode because you'll see pictures and you'll see timelines and bullet points and all that, right? Only 1 week later, on March 20th, 2019, Mark Tinsley filed a hastily drafted dram shop complaint on behalf of Miss Beach's estate against 9 defendants. Parker's Corporation, a gas station where Paul allegedly purchased beer with Buster's driver's license. Luther's Rare and Well Done, LLC, a restaurant that allegedly served alcoholic beverages to the group of friends. Christy Wood and James Wood, who allegedly allowed the group of friends to consume alcohol at their home. Mr. Murdaugh, who allegedly was negligent in supervising his adult sons, Mr. Murdaugh's son Buster, who allegedly allowed Paul to use his driver's license, and Mr. Murdaugh's father, Randolph, who allegedly allowed the group of friends to consume alcohol on property that he owned through a real estate trust. And the real estate trust owned by Mr. Murdaugh's father, Mr. Tinsley, did not allege that Paul was operating the boat. The allegations against Mr. Murdaugh were only that he was negligent. Now, some of you might be wondering, why did they go over this again, right? Like going back, but it's all part of the case. I'm quickly going to show you this one. Let's just quickly pull this up. So here you've got the Murdaugh family: Buster, Maggie, Paul, and Alec. Alec is charged with murdering Paul and Maggie. Okay, and we saw him in court. And Buster was sitting right behind him in court, in case you missed that. So if we just quickly, I'm just quickly going to go forward like this. So the trial, as we know, is set to run from January 23rd until February 10th. So when the defense team said it's going to be a long, was it defense team, right? That said it's a long trial. It's long, but not that long. It's not as long as one might expect, okay? He's 54 years old, Alec Murdaugh, and the judge is Clifton Newman. The prosecution, Creighton Waters. The defense is Jim Griffin and State Senator Dick Harpootlian. All right, so we've got, I'm just going to quickly skim through this. You see, we've got the whole bullet points and everything that happened on June 7th, 2021. But really, what I want to show you is the following. We've got the death of Stephen Smith, July 8th, 2015, which is now again being investigated. So why is everyone so fascinated with this case? Because there's a lot of deaths surrounding the Murdaugh family, and particularly Alec Murdaugh, right? So Stephen Smith, if you want to check out this whole presentation, check out the trial prep episode. And then we've got Mallory Beach, which is what we're looking at now. Okay, we're looking at that now from the document. She was, thrown off a boat. That's what we're going through, and she died. And so that's what we have there. And then we have Gloria Satterfield, which was the housekeeper for the Murdaughs for 20 years and knew the family extremely well. And she apparently slipped and fell down the stairs and died. And this is also her body's apparently, I don't know what the status of that is right now, but last I heard it was being exhumed, and this was being reinvestigated to make sure that she wasn't actually murdered, because the thing is, it's a whole family of lawyers, a long line of lawyers. Of course, Alec Murdaugh has kind of ruined the legacy, one might say. And so, I just want to put this back on like this. So the thing is, he's got a lot of fraud charges. He's got up to 85 other charges beyond the murders, right? Like, as in lots of fraud charges. So yes, so many people. That's what it's about. I've covered this case already last year. So if you check my Alec Murdaugh playlist, some of it was last year, and it's actually quite interesting to watch, because I was I was more chatty, I think. Now I'm like, focus, guys, bullet points, let's go. Okay. I was just like, hi, guys. So anyway, check it out if you want to see a bit of a blast from the past. So that's what we're looking at now, is this boating accident. And as they said, when you hear the 911 call and you see the body cam footage, watch how he acts. That's what the prosecution statement said, right? Because he talks about this. He's going to, I think what the defense might do is try to show that for instance, Mallory Beach's family, maybe they've got motive. They're going to try to, I don't know, pin it on someone, put it that way. Try to convince people that it would not be Alec Murdaugh, that it would be someone else that had way more motive than him. All right, so in knowingly and willfully allowing his minor son under the age of 21 to use Richard Alexander Murdaugh Jr.'s driver's license to purchase and consume alcohol, and in failing to supervise his son when he knew or should have known that the minor was using another's license to purchase and consume alcohol. And in such other and further particulars as the evidence in trial may show, Beach versus Gregory M. Parker. Of course, although Paul was at the time of the boat crash below the minimum age to purchase alcoholic beverages, he was 19 years old, almost 20, and not a minor. The only allegations against Mr. Murdaugh were that he was negligent in allowing his adult son, Paul, to use the license of his adult son, Buster, to purchase beer at a gas station, and failing to supervise his adult son. Of course, parents do not have a general duty to supervise their adult offspring. Adults are responsible for their own actions, okay? So during the Beach litigation, Mr. Tinsley served discovery requests for inter alia financial information. I think I'm going to skim this, okay? Because this document, as I say, it's all on Patreon. All Patreon tiers get the exact same benefits. If you want these documents, just go there and you could read the whole thing, right? That's where I put it for you anyway. And thank you again to the docket for making this binder for us so that we can go through it, right? Let's quickly read this statement here where they say the court never ruled on the motion before the murders of Maggie and Paul, which brought a level of scrutiny to Mr. Murdaugh's finances that swiftly led to the appointment of a receivership on November 4th, 2021, and multiple indictments later that month. But on October 7th, 2021, the court ruled on the motion to compel Parker's Corporation and so on. Okay, now what I really want to get to, just hold on one second. What I want to get to is there's lots of interesting things in here, okay? But if we scroll down a little bit like this, they're going to get to stuff like the evidence and the timeline and all that. So just hold on. There's a lot of things in here, and it's all very interesting. So there's the conclusion of all that. Says that for the foregoing reasons, the court should preclude the state from offering evidence on how the Court of Common Pleas would or should have ruled upon a pending motion in any civil proceeding to which Mr. Murdaugh is or was a party. Okay. Then we've got here the certificate of service. Let's continue on. Motion in, I don't know how to say that, Lyman, to preclude opinion testimony from Tom Bevel regarding alleged blood spatter stains. This was interesting because there's this whole argument about the shirt he was wearing, and the Kinsey report was talking about like blood spatter, and then the defense was saying that they couldn't test the shirt because it had been ruined in the testing from the prosecution side. All very interesting, right? Okay, so Richard Alec Murdaugh, by and through undersigned counsel, moves the court to preclude the state from introducing expert opinion testimony from Tom Bevel, asserting that Murdaugh's T-shirt seized from him by a sled on the night of the murders has high-velocity blood spatter stains, indicating that Murdaugh was in close proximity to Paul and or Maggie at the moment they were shot. Bevel's blood spatter opinion testimony must be excluded under State versus Counsel and its progeny because Bevel's methodology in reaching his conclusions and the substance of those conclusions are not reliable. Moreover, Bevel's blood spatter opinion testimony directly contradicts the state's scientific forensic serology and DNA testing, which failed to detect human blood anywhere on Murdaugh's shirt and failed to detect Paul's DNA. Accordingly, his opinion testimony does not aid the trier of fact to understand the evidence or to determine a fact in issue and is properly excluded. So this, wow, that's what they were saying. They don't have forensics, meaning fingerprints, blood, etc. And then they say, furthermore, any probative value such evidence or testimony may have, which Murdaugh denies, is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice, confusion of issues, and misleading the jury, and must be excluded under South Carolina Rule of Evidence 403. Murdaugh hereby incorporates the arguments and exhibits in his motion to compel and motion for sanctions that are on file in the court record in support of this motion in, I wish I knew how to say that, in Lamine. Sorry about that. I'm probably hurting all the lawyers' ears. Okay. These previously filed motions establish that Bevel's blood spatter opinion testimony is unreliable and must be precluded. To the extent the court concludes the existing record is insufficient to make such a ruling, Murdaugh requests a counsel evidentiary hearing to be conducted outside the presence of the jury prior to the state offering Bevel's blood spatter opinion testimony. Okay, so that was there. And let's see the conclusion if it's here. Certificate of service. Okay, we got that again. We got that. Here's another one. Exclude the blood spatter. So Richard Alexander Murdaugh, by and through undersigned counsel, moves the court to preclude the state. By the way, it's going to get more interesting. So just hang in there if you are here, okay? Like the list later is like, ooh, so many details on things that I haven't seen before. So Richard Alexander Murdaugh, by and through undersigned counsel, moves the court to preclude the state from offering any testimony of Deputy Kenneth Lee Kinsey regarding blood spatter on a white T-shirt that Murdaugh was wearing the night that his wife and son were murdered, because Deputy Kinsey, we've read that report before. If you missed that, go check it out. States that after consideration of Tom Bevel's opinion, analysis reports, and follow-up experimentation by Tom Bevel, this expert cannot render an opinion on whether the blood stains on Alex's white t-shirt, are consistent with back spatter from a gunshot. Without an opinion on whether the stains are blood stains or whether the stains are consistent with back spatter from a gunshot, any expert opinion testimony he would offer regarding the stains would not assist the trier of fact, and therefore such expert opinion should be excluded because it will unfairly confuse and mislead the jury. This is especially true because SLED's hemotrace testing results confirmed. Now, this is a big one. They confirmed. Okay, wait, someone's trying to help me here. Lemony? Oh, lemony. I'm going to be so clever after this. Thank you so much. Lemony. And I like how you write it out. Lemony. Okay, I'll get it right the next time round. Let's go. So this is especially true because SLED's hemotrace testing results confirm the stains are not human blood. Accordingly, Deputy Kinsey's testimony should be precluded because it's not relevant, fails to assist the trier of fact, even that one, can you tell me, am I saying it right, trier or trier of fact, and will only result in confusion of the pertinent issues being presented to the jury. Okay, so facts and procedural history. I hope you guys are enjoying that. Document time here. Lemony. Okay, thank you. Now, facts and procedural history. On the night of the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, SLED collected the white cotton t-shirt that Mr. Murdaugh was wearing when he discovered Maggie and Paul's bloody bodies. The murder scene was gruesome, and there was a large amount of blood on and around their bodies, which transferred onto Mr. Murdaugh's hands and clothing when he frantically checked them for signs of life. Now, I don't know. You guys, do you remember that 911 call we heard? Didn't he say that they're not breathing, they're like not conscious? He hasn't. Oh, he did say he checked. So this could be right. I was thinking, did he though? Like, did he actually? But here they're saying that his hands and clothing, when he frantically checked them for signs of life. As part of its examination of the t-shirt, SLED tested cuttings taken from the front, upper 2/3 of the t-shirt, which the state claims are spatter, for the presence of DNA, like skin cells, tissue, organs, muscle, brain, bones, teeth, hair, saliva, mucus, perspiration, fingernails, etc. The DNA test is highly sensitive and can detect trace DNA amounts as low as 1 nanogram or less, which can be transferred between persons through casual touch or even merely by being in close proximity. The cuttings generally tested positive for Maggie's DNA, with Paul either excluded or not considered because of his relatedness to the other contributors. None tested positive for Paul's DNA. 2 weeks later, the cuttings were then tested by SLED for hemoglobin, a test specifically tailored to identify the presence of human blood. Every cutting tested negative for human blood. Interesting, right? Given that the stains are not human blood, there's no reason to believe the positive DNA tests are related to the stains at all. Despite these test results, the state's expert, Mr. Bevel, inexplicably continues to maintain the stains contained in the cuttings from the upper 2/3 of the t-shirt are blood spatter. See the expert report and supplemental report attempting to disprove the hemotrace testing conducted by a scientist in SLED's state-of-the-art forensic laboratory, with results he obtained from testing performed by himself at home and which contradicts multiple peer-reviewed published academic articles. Attached here too are Exhibits A and B, respectively. Anticipating a challenge to the admissibility of Mr. Bevel's blood spatter opinion, the state provided the defense with Deputy Kenneth Lee Kinsey's expert report on January 13th, 2022. So that is what we looked at before. Approximately 1 week before the trial, the report, which was issued January 9th, 2023, just weeks after the defense pointed out the glaring deficiencies in the state and Bevel's compliance with the requisite Rule 5 disclosures, expressly relies on and essentially parrots Mr. Bevel's report. See Kinsey report attached here too as Exhibit C. Deputy Kinsey's report is organized around the same 12 investigative questions that Mr. Bevel used in his report and essentially paraphrases Mr. Bevel's opinions and those questions with one notable exception regarding blood spatter. In response to IQ4, are the bloodstains on Alex's white shirt consistent with back spatter from a gunshot? Deputy Kinsey repeats Mr. Bevel's phrase about 100 plus stains and then opines the smaller stains that are present after treatment with LCV appear to be high velocity impact stains, only caused by a gunshot or high speed machinery. He then pivots 180 degrees to conclude, after consideration of the original opinion, analysis reports, and follow-up experimentation, this expert cannot render an opinion on IQ4 above. Okay. I'm quickly going to have a sip of water here. I think the shirt is going to be not used. That's what I'm trying to... I think so, right? Okay. So in conjunction with its motion to exclude Mr. Bevel from providing opinion testimony regarding blood spatter, the defense files the present motion to preclude Deputy Kinsey from presenting the same. So, argument, given the absence of an opinion from Deputy Kinsey that the stains he examined are human blood, any expert opinion testimony he has regarding whether the stains are high velocity impact spatter only caused by a gunshot or high speed machinery should be precluded because it's not relevant, fails to assist the trier of fact, and will only result in confusion of the pertinent issues being presented to the jury. Yeah, you guys are like, make sure you hydrate. I do. A jury is properly presented with relevant opinion testimony from an expert when such testimony will assist the trier of fact to understand the evidence or to determine a fact in issue. The determination is a prerequisite to the admission of opinion testimony under Rule 702. Okay. I'm just reading what you guys are saying as well. Thank you for being here. All right, I'm going to go a little bit more. They say essential to the analysis before the court in rendering its decision on the present motion is the fact that Deputy Kinsey does not opine that the stains presented to him by the state for blood spatter analysis are in fact human blood. Thus, his opinion that the smaller stains that are present after treatment with LCV appear to be high velocity impact stains only caused by gunshot or high speed machinery is irrelevant and cannot be based upon a reasonable degree of certainty when the stains on which he is opining have tested negative for human blood. Interesting that it tested negative for human blood, right? Parker Marie, why was he wearing white in the fall? Angel says, who watched the jury selection? Fill us in, Grizzlies, please. Well, it was audio only, right? Rob says, great to be here. Thanks, Gizler. Yeah. I couldn't believe it when I saw that they were actually, streaming the opening statements. It was happening today. All right. So not only is Deputy Kinsey's testimony irrelevant, it does not assist the trier of fact in understanding the pertinent issue. So this is a little bit more of a repeat, okay? It's essential to the state's theory that the cuttings from the upper part of the T-shirt have blood spatter. Recognizing Mr. Bevel's testimony may be excluded for the litany of reasons set forth in the defendant's motion for sanctions and his motion in limine regarding Mr. Bevel's testimony. The state is attempting to backdoor in Mr. Bevel's blood spatter testimony through Deputy Kinsey. While it is true that Deputy Kinsey ultimately concludes that he cannot render an opinion on whether the blood stains on Alex's white shirt are consistent with back spatter from gunshot, his report contains opinions that are necessarily misleading in light of the absence of an opinion by him that the stains are in fact human blood. For example, he opines that some of the stains appear to be high-velocity impact stains. So basically, it seems like, the T-shirt seems to be out, right? Am I getting that right? Yeah, how could they not test the blood, says Tommy Larson. And now they're explaining all of it. As I say, the document, if you want to read it all yourself, there's a lot of pages here. We love documents. I've got it on Patreon. And the docket prepared this binder for us. So thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to just scroll down a little bit. Here they also say the testifying DNA expert was not present when the tests were conducted, and her opinion was based solely upon the test results. Wow. Okay. So, I mean, I feel like the T-shirt could have been a huge piece of evidence, but now it seems to not be included. So, conclusion. Okay. We're going to get to the list. Tony X says, "What is the evidence?" We'll look through this. Okay. They will see. So, conclusion. Based on the foregoing, the court should grant the defendant's motion in limine to preclude any testimony from Dr. Kinsey regarding blood spatter because it's not relevant. It fails to assist the trier of fact because it's not based upon a reasonable degree of certainty and will undoubtedly result in unnecessary confusion of the pertinent issues being presented to a jury. So that was quite hectic, huh? Now we go to Exhibit A, the Bevel Report. Exhibit A and B we're going to go through. So, reference homicide investigation of Paul and Margaret Murdaugh. As requested by your office, a physical evidence and scene analysis has been conducted on the above case. Crime scene reconstruction is defined as the forensic science discipline which employs the scientific method of analysis to identify the best explanation and sequence of objective actions for the incident in question. Information from all sources such as scene documentation, physical evidence, lab analysis, autopsy, photographs, and statements are considered in identifying viable hypotheses that are possible within the context and limited universe of this crime scene. CSR provides for formal objective analysis versus subjective analysis of complex issues and in a holistic approach. Should additional evidence or information become available, the analyst will consider its importance and may revise portions of the event analysis. The physical evidence analysis is then used as a benchmark upon which any statements may be compared against. Victims: Margaret Murdaugh. So, white female, 220 pounds, 5'9". Date of death, 06/07/2021. Date of birth, 09/15/68. And Paul Murdaugh, they've also got the stats there. White male, 176 pounds, 5'9". Okay. Husband or father to the victims, Richard Alexander Murdaugh. And the location was at 4147 Moselle Road, Islandton, near the dog kennels on the property on June the 7th, 2021. Helber's mom says, love the sinister tone when you say murder. Amy says, I expected more people in the courtroom. I think everyone was quite shocked that the opening statements happened today, right? Okay, briefcase synopsis. Alec Murdaugh stated that he drove to the dog kennel on his property and found his son and wife shot and non-responsive. He touched both victims in checking them for life signs. Alec stated he tried to roll Paul but could not. He called 911 to report the deaths and drove to his house to get a shotgun for protection and then drove back to the scene to wait for first responders to arrive. The following information was considered in this analysis. You could see there's a lot there. There's a lot there. Okay, so screenshot it if you want to. I'm not going to read it all out because, damn, look at that, okay? The following information was considered. Body cam, evidence processing, all that, right? Evidence collected. So this is what you guys wanted. Evidence collected to include, they say 1, shot shell wad located on the floor in the feed room. 2, 1 cartridge case, S&B 300 AAC BLK on the gravel between overhang and kennels. 1 cartridge S&B on the gravel between the overhang and kennels. 1 cartridge where the gravel meets the grass between the overhang and kennels. 1 cartridge on the dirt near the female's right side. 1 cartridge on the dirt near the female's right side as well. Lorraine's like, yes, evidence. KDK says he went to the kennels or lured them there. I think he lured them there because Maggie actually texted a friend and said something's up. Something's fishy. They were going to meet at the hospital, from what I understood, to go and visit his mother. And then last minute he said, no, meet me there at the hunting property. And she's like, can't we just meet you elsewhere. And he's like, no, go there. So I think he lured them there. Of course, he's innocent until proven guilty in court. Lemony, yes. Thank you so much. Okay, so you see, it says here, evidence collected to include. There's a whole bunch there. We're carrying on. You see, that's just the first bit we read, okay? Then 8, tire impressions consistent with the dog caretaker's vehicle. 12, brain matter in the grass between the gravel and female. So, sorry, if anyone needs the trigger bunny, it's graphic true crime information. Although that prosecutor, not the prosecutor, the defense attorney, damn, he was very graphic. Trigger bunny time. Okay, so 13, possible bullet strike in the gravel between the overhang and dog kennels with metal fragments recovered. 18, gunshot residue. It says number 18, gunshot residue. GSR kit from Richard Murdaugh. Number 19, white t-shirt. Number 20, pair of green shorts. Number 21, pair of red or yellow or white Nike tennis shoes. Some of you will say Nike. Number 8, one fired bullet near the tire impression in the dirt. Number 9 to 10, 2 fired 12 GA shot shells. Number 12, one fired bullet from dog bedding. 13, 1 buckshot pellet from table storage room window. Number 22, Benelli model Super Black Eagle 3 semi-automatic 12 GA with 1 unfired shot shell. Item 35 to 39, fired 300 blackout cartridges from ground at the side entrance door. 48 birdshot pellets from left shoulder and head of Paul. This is terrible. 1 piece of plastic from shoulder and head of Paul. 1 combination wad from left axilla of Paul. Axilla of Paul. Scene diagram as well they've got. Now they talk gunshot wounds to Margaret. 1 gunshot to the left side of the torso and head. Injury to left breast, left side of the lower jaw, of face and ear, skull and brain, path upward, no exit identified. 2 gunshot to the left wrist. Entrance on dorsal of left wrist. Trajectory back to front, upward, exit ventral of left forearm. 3 gunshot to the left thigh. Entrance on anteromedial aspect of left thigh. No suit. There's stippling up to 2 inches surrounding the entry. Exit back of left thigh. Path front to back, left to right downward. And 4 gunshot back of the head. Entrance right occipital scalp. Injury to scalp, right occipital skull, brainstem, cerebellum, and right side of upper back, trajectory downward. And 5 gunshot to upper abdomen. Entrance on the right side of the front abdomen, no suit, sparse stippling up to 3 inches above entry. Exit on the left side of the lower back, trajectory, back, right to left, downward. Now, gunshot wounds to Paul. A and B used in the autopsy report. Shotgun wound of shoulder and head. I won't read all of that now because it's quite long-winded, right? So shotgun, you can see it right there. Shotgun wound of shoulder and head. And B is shotgun wound to the chest. Storage or feed room evidence that assists in Paul's position when shot. 1 directional blood stains and tissue found on entry door, door threshold, door frame, above door on wall and ceiling, items sitting on the shelf to the right of the door as entering, passive blood drips on the floor, spatter on an open dog food sack, spatter on Emerson white item, possibly a refrigerator, footwear impressions in blood. Okay, that's going to be interesting. Footwear impressions in blood, blood spatter on all items on the shelf and floor in front of the window. Other physical evidence that assists in Paul's position when shot include hair on top of door and on wall, 2 12-gauge GA spent shotgun shells on the floor behind the door, if in open position, CPP number 22, 12 window panes on the south wall with 7 pellet defects, shotgun wound to the left shoulder and head, shotgun wound to the right chest continuing through the upper arm, Shot shell plastic wad on the floor beside the dog food sack. Skull fragments and tissue on the floor. This is hectic, you guys. Brain tissue on the walk outside entry door. Paul's resting body position is face down, just outside the door threshold, with his right foot and shoe on the interior of the threshold, and his left foot and shoe on the exterior of the door threshold. The shoe sole impressions in blood in 2 different locations. Appears to be blood on the soles of Paul's New Balance tennis shoes. Shotgun wadding on the right side of the door threshold. Area of origin for directional blood stains. Okay. The area of origin, they say the blood source had to be to create the stains that's found on the door, ceiling, and item. Okay. I'm just looking if it's not too graphic. Just hold on one second. So, investigative question: which shotgun wounds to Paul occurred first and second? Yeah. Can we just say back of the head instead of occipital then? Occipital. Occipital. Okay. Jill's like, I loved hearing her say it her way. Occipital. Yes, yes. Medical terminology 101 on Grizzly Channel. Teach me, everyone. Yes, we went through this with Brian Laundrie's full autopsy report too. Was it the yeah, we did. All those medical terms. We're like, oh my word. Okay, so you can see that there's quite a lot of... So which shotgun wounds to Paul occurred first and second? The shot to Paul's head that allows, the brain to fall to the floor outside the entry door would not allow Paul to walk forward to the door, but would allow him to fall forward through the open door. The shot to Paul's chest and arm would allow taking steps forward after shot. That is very hectic. I'm just going to carry on a little bit, okay? Thank you so much. You say you're doing great, G, with all the pronunciations. Thank you. Okay, now let's see. Question 2. Where is the shooter positioned for the 2 shots to Paul? Both fired shot shells are found on the floor inside the storage room, with Paul's body in an upright standing position and turned toward his left near the yellow marker number 1. It's possible to get a correct trajectory alignment from the open doorway. This is, of course, it's so in-depth. They're going to figure out exactly what, and I think they've got quite a lot of evidence here. What do you think? Especially from what we just read, right? So the first, I just look at the opinion. This is what I'm looking at now. Opinion. The first shot places the shooter in the doorway with the shotgun extended sufficiently past the door threshold. The long axis of the shotgun must be in line with the shot to the chest and exiting pellets, creating the defects to the 7 window panes. The second shot places the shooter outside the doorway toward the west edge of the door frame. The shotgun must be angled from the hip area upward to get a corresponding trajectory and directional blood spatter on the door and ceiling. The third question, can the sequence of shots to Margaret's body be identified? I'm going to scroll down to the opinion. Okay, do they have it? Where's the opinion? We want the summary. So Margaret has 5 different gunshot wounds. 4 wounds of different trajectories, except for wounds 1 and 2 are associated to one projectile which hits the wrist bone, causing a hairline fracture that causes the projectile to tumble as it exits the forearm. Then, wow, hits the breast, it's still tumbling. Damn. Nice. Shelly says, the docket, I just subscribed to you, by the way. Thanks for all your help to G. Yes, is the docket in chat? Sorry, I might have missed that. Hello to the docket if you are in chat. And you guys could just, you can click on his logo or just go to the Docket 71 on YouTube and subscribe over there. He also reads documents. We love documents. So you can go and listen to him read documents there too. Okay. Margaret and the shooter both show movement during the shooting. None of the 5 wounds establish and identified 3 defect points for a trajectory path beyond the body. The shot to the lower part of the doghouse on the south side of the doghouse does not align with any of the exiting projectile's wounds unless Margaret's body is low to the ground. I find that all very sad because it's like she, of course, ran for her life. She's like, she was running. Wow. Okay. Some of this might be a little bit graphic to read out, right? I know we're a true crime group, but this is YouTube after all. You love having the documents in the background, right? So yeah, if I'm not reading documents, I mean, there's someone else that reads documents. You got the docket. He reads a lot of documents too. There's lots of new ones that you don't want to miss if you are following the Velo case. So go check it out. Yeah, documents. Can't get enough documents. Documents equals facts. Same. Okay, the position to best comport with all physical evidence is number 2. All right, so let me just carry on here. Oh, there's the opinion. I missed that. Opinion. Due to the perceived movement of both the shooter and the victim during the shooting and no observed 3 defect points for aligning a body position for each shot is not possible. Question 4. I won't be too much longer, mods. Sorry about that. Yes, Michelle Roth says overkill. Okay. If you like the document reading time here, hit the thumbs up, everyone. Please share. You can use the hashtag Alec Murdaugh and Grizzly True Crime if you can use that as well, please. There's the docket. I keep looking out for your comment. There is the docket. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so question 4. Are the bloodstains on Alex's white t-shirt consistent with backspatter from a gunshot? And they say the opinion, some of the stains on the white t-shirt are consistent with transfers and 100 plus stains are consistent with spatter on the front of the t-shirt. Question 5. Are the 100 plus spatter stains on the front of the t-shirt the result of using the t-shirt to wipe the face? The opinion is the 100 plus spatter stains on the front of the t-shirt are not from wiping the face with a t-shirt. Question 6 or IQ 6. What type of blood staining would be expected to be on the face from checking 2 deceased bodies for a pulse, trying to roll one body over to its back but failing to do so? The opinion, the only blood patterns expected from handling the bodies would create transfer patterns. IQ 7. Can the position of the shooter for Margaret's shooting be identified? And the opinion is, I just quickly want to see the weapon here. Okay, they say opinion. Due to the great amount of movement by both Margaret and the shooter, along with the lack of 3 defect points to identify a possible trajectory pass, the shooter's shooting position is generally to the left along the path of the fired cartridge cases and next to Margaret's body for wounds number 1 and 2. 8. How does environmental factors and physical manipulation of the shirt affect the stains observed? The opinion is many different factors can affect and alter blood stains before they completely dry and become set or fixed on clothing. Once the stains are completely dry and are set, in most instances will look the same over time, even after washing and handling them. Question 9. Would the shooter for either victim get blood backspatter on their person or clothing? And the opinion is, for the first shot to Paul, the shooter is farther than 4 feet from Paul. Thus, no backspatter is expected to land on the shooter or his clothing. For the second shot to Paul, there is an exit wound directing most of the spatter in the same direction as the force, which is away from the shooter for the majority of spatter. Since the trajectory of this shot is upwards, resulting in some of the spatter, tissue, and hair to be deposited on areas about the victim, it can be expected due to gravity along with blood impacting these areas with sufficient force. Secondary spatter may have also been created, raining down back into the scene and potentially on the shooter. Margaret's number 1 shot to her breast, lower jaw, face, ear, and head. The ME states no exit identified. There's no suit or stippling. The shooter is likely 4 feet away or farther. From the shooter's position to the shot, I would look for spatter on their clothing. Margaret's number 2 wound is to her wrist with an exit and is associated with wound 1. So let's look at the. Wow, that's a long opinion. Okay, we're reading it. Margaret's 5 shots, 3 and 5, have stippling around the entry wound, which places the shooter and the end of the muzzle closer to these 2 entry wounds. Shot 3 to the left thigh and 5 to the upper abdomen both have exit wounds, sending the majority of blood spatter away from the shooter. Margaret's number 4 wound is to her back, 5 times. It's to the back of head, striking the skull, brainstem, cerebellum, and right side of the upper back, likely from bullet fragments or skull continuing to the upper back shoulder. The majority of blood spatter will be in the direction of force away from the shooter. Only 1 shot from Paul is likely to create back spatter, the shot to his shoulder and head. The shooter is certainly in a close enough range to get spatter on their clothing, and the clothing would be examined for spatter. Thank you so much, Sasha. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Sheila, welcome to membership. So only 1 shot from Margaret. Her head is likely to produce back spatter, but the primary force is away from the shooter, and the shooter is likely at the 4-foot range or farther. In this double shooting, I would always look for back spatter on the weapons and possibly into the barrel if the weapons are known and available. I would also examine the clothing of the shooter if the clothing worn at the time of the shooting is known and available, and if the weapons are known and available. For there to be spatter on the shooter or their clothing, it's certainly possible given the facts and circumstances surrounding this incident. Now, question 10, does the physical evidence support a struggle between Paul and the shooter given the shot to his chest? And the opinion is there's no physical evidence to identify a struggle for the chest shot. Question 11, could the shooter be prone or kneeling on the cement at the time of the shoulder headshot? And the opinion is the best explanation to comport with the physical evidence is with the shooter in standing position to the south side of the open doorway. All right, welcome to all the new members. Yes, they said she was running. They do say a lot of movement in this document as well. Yep. She was running. That's so sad. I mean, the whole thing is sad. I'm just saying, sometimes reading the details. Goodness, right? Okay, question 12. What is the best explanation for how the cell phone this is interesting. I was wondering where I remember it from reading this. What is the best explanation for how the cell phone dislodged from Paul's back pocket? So here's some more interesting stuff. Opinion, the phone may be taken from the pocket by a person with blood on their fingers, transferring blood onto the elastic pocket top when removing the phone. So I'm going to go over that again. They say the back pocket reportedly is where Paul's cell phone was carried. The elastic at the top of the pocket will assist in preventing the phone from falling from the pocket. The elastic pocket top has transferred blood on the top edge of the pocket, consistent with a bloody finger grabbing the pocket to pull the pocket open. So that's another one that sounds like a red flag, huh? Okay, so they say I-9 above. The T-shirt has been evaluated by 6 recognized blood stain pattern experts, all agreeing the best explanation for the stains on the shirt are spatter from approximately the bottom third up to the top of the shirt and transfers on the bottom third down to the hem of the shirt. All agree they cannot identify some other mechanism to create the distribution and sizes of the question stain spatter. Okay, so there's the questions that they ask. Exhibit B. This says Bevel Supplemental Report. On December 1st, 2022, I received a lab report via email dated November 10th, 2021, in reference to the above referenced case regarding the results of forensic scientist Sarah Zapata's hemotrace confirmation tests on the Murdaugh t-shirt. The report noted that 12 areas of the t-shirt tested were negative for the presence of human blood, which is still very interesting. Very interesting, right? Okay, so I'm just going to go on because we've seen a lot about this blood spatter. Wait. What are they listing? Okay, the experiments were conducted. Okay, controlled. So that's all the testing they did. I just quickly want to ask one question. Okay. So Opinion on the first completed report and then considering new information and testing. The opinion given, based on the information known at the time, was that the size and distribution of stains on the t-shirt worn by Mr. Murdaugh are consistent with a disruptive force, with the LCV test being positive for blood added to the probability that the stains came from a disruptive force consistent with backspatter blood events such as the discharge of a firearm. I stand by this opinion. You could see there's very differing opinions here. Opinion. The original opinion, based on the information available at the time, is still correct. Considering the additional information and my testing with known human blood using HT on the spatter size stains on the test white t-shirt squares all produced negative results for human blood after LCV processing. While there is not a confirmation test for human blood on the questioned white t-shirt, my testing with known human blood confirmed human blood only before LCV processing and negative for human blood after. This is what they were saying. I saw it on the lawyer, as well. They're talking about this t-shirt, that something was ruined in the testing of this shirt, right? Parker Marie says, I would love to physically see it. Exhibit C is the Kinsey report. Now, this we have read through together already. So what I'm going to do is I just quickly want to go down to something here. So that's all these qualifications. Something, documents or evidence reviewed. Okay, that's that list again that we've seen. Trace reports. There's one thing here. Wait for it. Overview of the initial crime scene. Okay. I'll read that paragraph there. And then I just want to go down a little bit because they do talk about, which the docket actually pointed out to me, that it's a lab photo of a shotgun. So when they say they don't have any of the weapons, it seems like they do have a shotgun and possibly not the other weapons. Okay, so they say the double homicide took place at a K9 kennel on the large property owned by Alec Murdaugh, Attachment 1. It was my understanding that the property had been utilized as an outdoor hunting retreat by previous owners. The property is very large, with small pines, hardwoods, open fields, a large house residence, a smaller house, a repurposed airplane hangar, and separate K9 kennel. The property also contains several outbuildings and sheds that I viewed from a distance but did not examine. Paul Murdaugh had been shot 2 times with a shotgun in the confines of a feed or mudroom that was connected to several covered but outdoor dog runs, Attachment 2. Paul was discovered on the covered sidewalk outside the door of this room and was discovered prone, face down, on the cement walkway, Attachment 3. Maggie Murdaugh was a short distance away and was located northwest at the end of the repurposed hangar that is now a covered shed. Maggie Murdaugh was also prone, face down, and had succumbed to several gunshots from a rifle. Attachment 4. Alec Murdaugh reported that he had discovered the 2 victims upon his return to the property. Okay, so we've got all those details there. We've gone over this before, so don't get mad at me if you're like, why don't you read it all? We've done it before. Go check out my previous live stream. I think it was 2 live streams ago. Okay, so investigative questions. What is the order of the shotgun wounds? Okay, so we've looked at this. Let's just see. I'm just trying to find that one thing. We've got the first wound, the second wound. We're going down. See, this question 4, are there bloodstains on Alex's white t-shirt, consistent with backspatter? And they say 100 plus stains on the front of the 100 plus stains on the front of the neck area of the white t-shirt. Transfers or projected bloodstains. So that shirt, man, I don't know what's going on with it in this trial. Shirley said, do you have the 911 call? If you just watch my episode Trial Prep, we listen to the 911 call again. I do have it. Yes, I do. So actually, just want to quickly see something. While I just want to find this one more thing, man. And then let me put it like this. Video file. I think it was, yeah, it's here. Okay, so we've got the stage shooting one. I'm just going to quickly skim through the document while I play this for you. This one, yeah.
Road analysis. Road. I think the...
Sorry. Trying to find the right
All right.
spot.
Well, let me. All right. So thank.
Stand by. I'm just going to look at the document for the thing I'm finding for you while you listen to this. So, and the sound is off on it now.
Where's
Okay.
your emergency? This is Alec Murdaugh at 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police and the ambulance immediately. My wife and child just shot badly. Okay, you said 4147 Moselle Road in Islandton? Sir? You said 4147 Moselle Road in Islandton? Yes, sir. 4147 Moselle Road. Stay on the line with me, okay? Yes, sir. Stay on the line with me, okay?
Colleton County Communications.
Colleton, I have an Alex Murdaugh on the line, caller from 4147 Moselle Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay. Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground out at my kennels.
Okay, and did you see anyone? Okay, is he breathing at all?
No. Nobody.
Is she? Okay, do you see anything? Do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What color is your house on the outside? What color is your house on the outside?
It's white. You can't see it from the road.
Okay, is it a house or a mobile home?
It's a house.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is Alec Murdaugh.
Okay, and did you hear anything, or did you come home and find them?
No, ma'am. I've been gone. I just came back.
Okay, and was anyone else supposed to be at your house?
No, ma'am. Please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you. Okay, what is her name?
Maggie and Paul.
Maggie is her name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you. Me asking you these questions, don't slow them down, okay? And you sure they're not breathing? Is he moving at all, your son? I know you said that she was shot, but what about your son?
Nobody. They're not. Neither one of them's moving.
What is your telephone number? And does anything look out of place?
Ma'am, not particularly, really, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Are they close, ma'am?
Yeah, they've been en route with you ever since you've got on the phone with me. I have multiple people coming out there to you. Okay. I don't want you to touch them at all, okay? I don't know if you've already touched them, but I don't want you to touch them just in case they can get any kind of evidence, okay?
I'd already touched them trying to get to see if they were breathing.
Okay. Well, I just don't want you to move anything just in case they can get any kind of evidence, okay?
Okay, so that was that. It's also, if you want to, you guys are saying rewind everything. You can rewind, listen to it again, make some comments as well on the video. For me, it's almost 1 a.m, so I'm going to carry on here quickly and then going to call it a day. I really appreciate you being here as we go through this document. So here they say facts. Okay, Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were found murdered on June 7, 2021 on their family property located at 4147 Moselle Road, Islandton, South Carolina. At the crime scene, the ballistic evidence around Paul's body included 1 shot cup and 1 shot wad, collectively item 1, and 2 12-gauge shot shells, item 9 to 10, as well as bullet jacket fragments, collectively item 11, a fired bullet, a buckshot pellet, and birdshot pellets. The Colleton County Sheriff's Office identified 6 .300 blackout caliber cartridges around Maggie's body. Law enforcement also confiscated fired 300 blackout caliber cartridge cases from the ground at the side entrance of the house on the Moselle property, approximately 300 yards from the crime scene. Okay. Additionally, 300 cartridge cases as well as 12-gauge shot shells were found in an area by a pond near Moselle Road in a field which was frequented by the Murdaugh family and guests for target practice. All of the above evidence, as well as 4 12-gauge shotguns and 1 300 blackout caliber rifle collected from the Moselle property, were submitted to the firearms department at SLED for forensic examination. The laboratory then fired laboratory-supplied ammunition through each shotgun and rifle to create test specimens. Greer then examined and compared the various items of firearms ballistic evidence submitted from the crime scene with the test specimens created by the lab using the naked eye and a microscope. Based on the observable physical characteristics of the items submitted to the lab, he concluded that some of the 300 cartridges retrieved from the firing range and near the residence were fired and or loaded into, extracted, and ejected by the 300 blackout rifle taken from the property. So remember how the defense said, there's a lot of guns there, they got a gun room, and all of that. Anyway, so they say while he was unable to conclude the 300 blackout cartridges found beside Maggie's body were fired by the 300 blackout retrieved from the residence, he reported that matching individual identifying characteristics were found in the mechanism marks of items 2 to 7, spent shell cartridges found at the crime scene. So items 35 to 37, 39, 108, 113, 116 to 117, and 122 cartridges found at the shooting range and near the residence, to conclude that these items were loaded into, extracted, and ejected from the same firearm at some previous time. Oh, Rochelle says, "Rest up, Grizzly." Well, we can't stop. We just gotta do a little bit more right here, right? Argument, but I will rest after this, I promise. The court should preclude the state's ballistic expert from testifying that the 300 blackout cartridges found at the crime scene were fired from the same weapon that fired 300 blackout cartridges at the shooting range and near the residence, because there are not any reliable studies or any scientific proof that every 300 blackout rifle makes tool marks on fired cartridges that are unique from every other 300 blackout rifle manufactured in the world. So I just want to see if there's a conclusion that they draw here. Firearms analysis is neither scientifically valid nor reliable. Thus, the ballistics evidence should be excluded. Wow. Imagine something like that in the Delphi case. Damn. Okay. I'm just saying. Now they bring in the arguments in here. Okay. We're going for it. We're looking. We're scrolling, everyone. We're scrolling. Again, if you want to read the whole document, I've got it on Patreon. I'm not sure if the docket put this on Twitter, but you can also go to Twitter. He is Chasing Paper 89. I am Grizzly Gizzler. And if you share this video and you go #Grizzly True Crime on Twitter, you guys are making me trend on Twitter. So thank you for that. Tammy Marie says, Grizzly True Crime, thank you for all the content. I'll be here again. I hope so. Thank you all for being here. Okay. So here they're saying what the court should do. Wait 1 second. Yeah, we're going faster now. Man, there's this one. Okay, the docket, if you're watching, on what page is it where they tell us that there's the picture of the shotgun? We have read through it before, you guys. I just wanted to find it now. Okay. Exhibit A. Is it this? Could be this. Evidence. Items of evidence. 1 shot cap and 1 wad component. Reddish brown debris swabbed from item 1. Fibrous material from item 1. And all these blackout caliber cartridge cases. Look at it. Okay. But as they said, no forensics, meaning fingerprints, blood, etc. Melissa says, I may be late in the chat, but regarding his t-shirt, all he had to do was throw it in the dryer at his mom's house. Heat destroys DNA evidence. Damn. This is Grizzly shutting down in real time. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Yeah, I'm powering through. Yeah, let's see. What? Scroll too fast. Okay. Okay, so we've got reddish brown debris. So we've got that. One Mossberg Model 835 Ulti-Mag pump action shotgun. Damn. Okay. All kinds of items, as you could see. You could just stop, like if you just pause it and you want to just read it, you can do that anytime, right? I'm just making sure we're going through this, okay? It's like I can't go until we've gone through the whole thing here. We're on page 73. Just wait, look at it. So all listed. It's just a bit concerning, except for the cell phone data. That video that the prosecution said that they have showing Alec Murdaugh at the scene 3 minutes before Paul and Maggie were shot. I think that's gonna be the thing, right? Oh yeah, right. KDK, do you know me at all? Give up. As if. Okay. Never. I'll start again. We are looking, and as I say, you can read this yourself anytime. I just want to see something. There was a list, okay? I think it was on that Kinsey report we read the other day. That's where we looked at it. And I pointed it out. And then it was because it says one lab photo of a shotgun. So they do have that. They do have a shotgun. But how they're going to prove all of this is going to be very interesting. So this trial started not started today, started Monday. But the opening statements were today. And the trial will be running until February 10th. Wow, look at all this now. This is a lot of stuff here. Now, what have we got going on here? I've read through all of this before, but 93 pages. I've got a good memory, but I don't remember everything. So I'm like, where is it, you guys? Okay. I guess I could stop soon. Just wait. 82 pages. We're going for it. Okay. Thank you for being here. You hit the thumbs up. It's free. Yes. Thank you, Janice. Hit the thumbs up. It's free to do. Subscribing is free as well. Hit the bell. And if you have any questions, my website is grizzlytruecrime.com. This is just like all the conclusive stuff here. Yeah, it's definitely on that Kinsey report, which they said was Exhibit C. Now tell us where it is. Tell us. Imagine if it's right at the bottom. Sorry, I'm going all the way. Like this. I will not find it. I could see. I'm not going to find it. It's okay. It's on my other episode. What is this document called? It's called the Grizzly Binder. Look, it's called the Grizzly Binder that the docket made for me. It's a whole bunch of documents all in one. 93 pages of everything. All the latest documents. Straight from the court, right? Yes. You know what? Just one more thing. Just don't want to give up. Just one more thing. Wait. It's not that one. This is what I'm talking about. The Kinsey report. I've opened another document and you're like, oh my word, the one that we opened a few days ago. Yes, we've seen that. Now please just show us that freaking list. Is it here? We've got the overview. We've got that. You know, what page? Sorry, retyping. It's like call a friend. Second win. Now, if you haven't seen this document, it's the Kinsey report. It was included in the binder. I just thought maybe I could find this myself somehow. You guys are just now watching me be a little bit obsessive about finding it. So I'm sorry about that. In general, I wish you all a wonderful night, okay? I'm sure by now it's nighttime for you, right? For me, it's 1:45 in the morning. I'm still going strong, though. I could do this. Okay. The docket says keep scrolling. So here we've looked at this. We've looked at this. This is the crime scene that they drew out here for us. We've got Margaret Murdaugh over here and Paul Murdaugh over here. There's actual photos here as well. So brace yourself if you haven't seen that. That is proven to be a mannequin now, you guys. A mannequin, yes. Yeah, Hoppy says, I resemble that urge to search. Just can't let it go, right? Me. That's me too. Okay, we keep scrolling. Attachment 5. Crime scene photos. That's a mannequin. Don't get scared. It is still scary. It's crime scene photos, but like, man, when we first saw that photo, it's like, what is that? Rochelle says, you can do it. Don't give up. That's not you. I know, right? It's so not me. We will be here. Okay, attachment 7. Thank you, Angela. Oh, man. Sorry, guys. Picture's a bit hectic. Are we there yet? Okay, we've got pictures. So this if you have not seen this before, if this is your first time seeing this, yeah, these are crime scene photos. Oh, not of course, like, you know what I mean. It's photos from the scene. Let's say it like that. Terrible. Oh my goodness. Okay. Attachment 10. So everything we just read as well in that other report describing things, and you could see it here. You see, they're pointing all the arrows right here. How terrible. Oh. Docket says keep scrolling, but it's the end of the document. I must find it. And one could say you could maybe just search for it. No, you can't. Thank you so much, Amy. Mighty Mouse says, what a dump. I thought they were wealthy. Well, that's just their hunting property, right? And it's just it's the kennels. It's for the dogs. Right? Tony says it's all about what happened, but who flippin' did it? Well, you say search keywords, but I don't have the pro version, so I can't do it. Sorry about that. I've tried. I can't do it. Doesn't look for it for me. I know I've seen it. And you guys know what I'm going to be doing tonight. I'll be like, I knew it. As soon as I find it, I knew it. Oh, man. Frick is that list? They said it here. It must be here. Is it not? Am I blind? There, I'm blind, you guys. It's right here. It's literally, that is what I'm looking for. Lab photos of a shotgun. I found it. I've got it. So that is all I'm trying to find you. You're like, what is she doing? I'm trying to find you lab photos of a shotgun. So just remember that when people tell you that they haven't found any weapon, they've got no weapons at all. There's lab photos of a shotgun. So they must have at least photos of a shotgun. So documents or evidence reviewed, as you could see, David Green, BWC, body cam, right? Recording, June 7, 2021. SLED, crime scene, investigative summary. The first interview of Alec Murdaugh. The autopsy report for Paul Murdaugh. Photos from the autopsy of Paul Murdaugh. Autopsy report for Margaret Murdaugh. And photos from the autopsy for Margaret Murdaugh. DNA report, January 25th, 2021. DNA report, July 25th, 2021. CS photos, crime scene photos / evidence processing. Twice. And then lab photos of a shotgun. FA report, July 23rd, 2021. And all of this, like lab photos of the victim's clothing, evidence processing, trace reports, all that. So there we go. You're like, that's true crime. That's what? That's true. Okay. I'm like, that's true crime. Yeah. It ain't even 6 p.m. yet. Thank you, guys. You're like, Could have seen that probably right in the beginning. I'm like, there it is. That's what we got. You know what gave me a fright? Was when the prosecutor did that like tap on the desk. They're like, "Papa." Yeah, I'm like, oh my word. I wasn't expecting that. So, do I look tired? Do I look fine? I don't know. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending 2.5 hours with me. And mods, oh my word. Oh my word. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Again, if you guys want to find any links of mine, like if you're looking for something, it's all on grizzlytruecrime.com. So go check that out. Thank you to the docket for these documents. You can check out his YouTube channel, The Docket 71. And you can find us on Twitter as well. So do that. Okay. You're like, just stay logged on, Grizzlies. All right. I'm glad we could go over the 911 call again and all these documents and the evidence. And of course, the opening statements. Thank you for that. And yes, he said the prosecutor tap. Yeah, it was like, papa. I'm like, oh my word. Yes. Okay, everyone. I'm going to go now. It's tea time and then bedtime. And I'll see you again very soon. This was actually my plan for tomorrow to read through this. So I'm glad I could do this with you today. Bye, everyone. Stay safe.